Hey everybody, Crimson here. Now, I've been wanting to do a video like this for some time. You know, when you're flying aircraft, whether it's Cessna 172 in real life or a digital combat simulation version of the Hornet, you have to have habits, right? So a checklist, repeatable things you do every time without fail that are the same. And by doing that, you really create a better experience and a safer situation for yourself, never cutting corners. So I just want to walk through kind of what I do for a carrier launch in an F-18. First of all, the Supercarrier by Eagle Dynamics is an amazing module, highly recommended. Obviously a big fan of the Hornet. It's the main aircraft that I fly. And I have a series of things that I do every time when doing a carrier launch. I thought I'd walk through that with you. So the first thing I do, I'm up and running here. Take a look to my right. A couple options here on the catapults. First thing I do, I get rid of my joystick. The flight stick kind of gets in the way. Always turn on your RWR system. Then for ECM, I go standby, and then for my dispensers, I go bypass. I do manual chaff and flares. Don't really use the programs, so I have a button set up on my POTAS where I can release chaff and flares manually, and that's what I do typically when I'm in an air combat situation. On the left display, I always go HUD, especially like at night. It's always good to have the HUD available if your head's down, setting up your waypoint, setting up weapons. It's good to be able to have that HUD available to you in a heads down situation. And then on the right display, I always start with the FCS. One of the things I want to look at is I want to look at my trim, takeoff trim. And right now I'm at 12, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit, how we might want to change that. Finally, what I do is I set up the checklist down here. This checklist is pretty handy. Reminds you of kind of all the things that you might want to check before taking off, as well as it tells you what your takeoff weight is. So right now I'm looking at 42,700 pounds. I have a kneeboard. There's some really good kneeboards available that DCS World users have created. One of those, I can't remember the name, I'll post it in the description when I post this later, is these checklists right here. And what's interesting about this is it tells you what your takeoff trim should be at certain weights. So being at 42,000, takeoff trim should be around 3 degrees. So I'm going to set my takeoff trim to 3 degrees. So there's that. And you can take a look right here, 3 degrees. The other thing I'm going to do is come down here and make sure that my carrier hook bypass is set. That looks good. And then for takeoff, anti-skid should be off. Not really important for takeoff, but we'll just set that anyway. All right, so everything else looking good. Get my nose wheel steering engaged. One thing I've forgotten before that I always want to double check is see if I got the chocks set. And yep, chocks are set. Want to make sure that we don't get ourselves in trouble there. So I'll call up the ground crew and wheel chocks, and we'll tell them to remove those. Really bad to hit the throttle and still have those wheel chocks attached. I have forgotten before. Once again, flows, checklists, repeatable habits, very important. So double checking, chocks are now removed. We'll go ahead and start our taxi to Cap 1. And I'll set nose wheel steering to high on a carrier, pretty important. I'm going to bring myself all the way over here. See if I can set up. This is tough, you know, lining up on the catapult is kind of a tough thing. Never been super great at it. So it's just something you have to do over and over until you feel comfortable with it. And watch the deck crew, they'll kind of guide you on what to do. See hand signals, you're saying you gotta go a little bit further to the right, which I will do. See, I'm lined up pretty good. So, see if we can get a little bit more lined up here. Bring it around. Still skewed to the bit. Says I'm looking good, but we'll take a look. Line up reasonably. Right there. Toe brakes. Wants me to put my wings down. So right now my wings are folded up. So go ahead. Set the wings. I have taken off with my wings up before. Surprisingly, you can fly. Not very well. Once again, it's all about the flows, making sure that you do the same things every time and don't cut corners or make mistakes. So I'm going to look outside here, make sure that I'm lined up okay. I'm lined up kind of weird, but I think the simulator will forgive me for this. We'll see. So I'll drop the launch bar. And let's see. Yeah, it hooked me up pretty good. It was kind of a terrible alignment on my part, but fortunately the simulator is forgiving. So now he's telling me move forward. Got to give it quite a bit of power to get over the top here. Keep going. Go a little bit more. And down in. Okay. So we're good. Locked up. At that point I can go ahead and raise. Hook. So he's saying eyes on me. He's going to tell me to throttle up. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the ground crew communication because I'll be wanting to hit F6, which is the takeoff salute. Always look back, make sure everything else is looking good. Wings are unfolded. Wings are ready, so we'll go full throttle. And when we're feeling like things are good and ready, go ahead and salute. Get ready for the final launch. And off we go. So gear up, flaps up. Procedurally, you're kind of supposed to stay under 700 feet just to stay out of any aircraft that are coming in for a recovery. So I'd like to try to stay under 700 feet after launch. Turned away a little bit to the right. And once we're 7 miles out, we can proceed to our mission altitude. But that's all for now on the launch and just some of the things that I do procedurally. At this point, obviously I'm going to take it off a checklist and go to my situational awareness page. I like to have my radar, TAC radar, on my left display and the EW on my right display. And this is my primary combat configuration. And I'll do this every time. It's kind of the way I like to do it. You may have a different way that you like to set up your displays in your cockpit, which is totally fine. This is just what I've found works best for me. Anyway, hope you found that helpful, and happy flying. Talk to you later.